My name's John Edmiston. I'm the CEO of Cyber Emissions. And before we get started, let me just pop this up for a minute so I can use that black. Oh, forget about it. I have a course, a mobile ministry training course that's coming up in a few weeks that I mentioned downstairs. Someone asked me the URL. It's cybermissions.org/mobilemin. cybermissions.org/mobilemin. So it's 4 weeks, $20, etc. I think you might have heard of it downstairs, but someone asked me the web address, cybermissions.org/mobilemin. You can look that one up later. This session is going to be on the next 20 years, and I am very interruptible. So if you've got a question, just ask, right? And I can resume my flow quite easily. And I like interaction. I'm one of these people that likes interaction, but I could also talk the leg off an iron pot. So stop me in mid-flow if you feel that I need to be so stopped. So there are some big changes that I think are going to come over the next few years. And number one is the internet has moved from computers to devices. So traditional internet was a desktop plugged into a cable and it sat there. Now, then it moved to the laptop like this. Now it's moving to tablets. It's moved to my Kindle. It's moved to my cell phone. And I want the same content on my desktop, my laptop, my Kindle, my Galaxy Tab, etc., and my cell phone. I want that content to be able to move around. So when I download an ebook into my Kindle, I put the Kindle for PC app on my laptop so I can read it there, and it's also on my desktop, so I can have access to that same ebook everywhere I go. From multiple, so the content is no longer just sitting on one computer in my study at home or in my office. The content has to move around with me globally. And what do I take around with me globally? Generally, my tablet and my cell phone. They're the things that are going to travel with me globally. These tablets and e-readers are now have gone up from 2% of penetration to 29% penetration just in a couple of years. The use of Kindles and tablets is exploding. So people are wanting their content on all the different devices that they have. So, and people don't just want to read content, they want to own the content. They want to take the MP3 file off iTunes and own it on all the devices that they can play that MP3 file on. So they'll download it to their laptop and then they will transfer it to their cell phone, and then they will put that on their MP3 player, so that they want to own the content and feel it's their proprietary content. And the illustration for that is this thing over here, bottled water. That is basically just tap water. We all know that. We've all seen the research. But it's tap water that we own. It's in our bottle. We carry it around in our hand, and we are prepared to pay for stuff that we think we own, whereas we don't really feel much ownership for the stuff coming out of the tap. Now, the main internet that we're used to, the internet that we go to via Google, it feels public. It doesn't feel private. It doesn't feel like something we own. But the file that we download is something that we own. It's the water in the bottle. So when you download the ebook to your Kindle, even if it's a free ebook, you now feel that you've got it. It's yours. It's on your Kindle, and so it downloads to John's Kindle via WhisperNet, and I own it, and I love that Kindle. I just went on a spiritual retreat last week, and I took it with me, and I had a whole bunch of books. Instead of having to carry I never read just one book at a time. I read 20 at a time, and I browse, and so instead of having to carry a truckload of books, I had them all on my Kindle, which is much easier to read than on a laptop. So I feel I own those ebooks that are there. And ownership of content's now a big thing. People want to feel an emotional, a relational ownership thing with the content. Now, as well as that, billions of people are entering this new device space from the developing world. Now, with my Australian accent, I didn't say spice, I said space, S-P-A-C-E. Right? And so they're entering this new world of devices, and they're downloading their material to their mobile phones. And more phones are now 3G enabled. More and more phones, even in the developing world, are able to access the internet, at least in a basic form. Even a lot of the Nokia feature phones, the basic phones, are still able to access the web to some degree. So these people entering from, say, Ghana or Nigeria are web newbies. They've never been on the internet before. They're where I was in 1992 or 93 or 94, just coming onto the internet and just learning about it. This is the first time they've clicked on anything. This is the first time they've downloaded it. They don't know any netiquette. They don't know how they should handle an email. And so these people are coming, and they're not just searching for content such as movie clips and audio files, which is a large part of what's downloaded. They're searching for God. They're searching for answers to the questions of their life, and they're searching for things that will help their aspirations. Another big thing about the internet is it is now becoming much more localized. It is now, when about 17% of searches now contain a map or a zip code of some sort, a geographical reference. So I will search for dentists 90745, which is my zip code down there in Carson. So if I'm looking for a dentist, I'm going to be looking for one that is in my area. So when you're designing a web strategy, one of the most important things to have on the front page of your website is your zip code and some sort of directions to get there, to your church, to your ministry, or whatever physical presence you want them to have to locate, because people are looking for things around their area. Now, the internet is also not just one big thing. It's broken up into language and cultural groups. There are niches within the internet. I mainly surf, of course, in the English-speaking internet. But the Chinese-speaking internet is huge. So is the Japanese, Korean, German, Portuguese, and Spanish-speaking internets. They are different universes. I've never gone and searched the internet in Portuguese. But there are people who search every day in Portuguese. In Brazil and Madagascar and places like that, there are people searching in Portuguese, and of course in Portugal. So there is a lot of people who are in a specific language niche, and that's all that they see, or they're in a specific cultural niche or subcultural niche. So there are people who are avid game players of something like World of Warcraft, and they will live in the World of Warcraft game playing zone, and they will look for everything relative to games, and they will probably not ever go to the Christian websites that I occasionally inhabit. They will be in another zone. They're looking for a certain design, they're looking for a certain pattern, they're comfortable with certain imagery, and they're probably never going to go to focus on the family website, because that would just immediately repel them. So there's a sense of there are subcultures on the web that we need to reach out to, that we will not reach out to with the generic bland website. So if you wanted to reach gamers, you would have to use gamer style imagery, and you would have to be someone who is familiar with that culture and maybe create a game. As well as that, there are still many low-tech areas in the world. There are still many places. If you go out to rural America, you go out to Kentucky, or at least in one place I was in Virginia, the internet is absolutely terrible in rural America. It's worse than in many developing countries. You are flat out getting 56 kilobytes per second in some parts of rural America, unless you've got a satellite provider, which is very expensive. So there are some parts of rural America, and there are many parts of the developing world where the bandwidth is extremely limited. I was in Indonesia recently, in one of the major cities there, and I was talking to a young businessman, And he said, I've got a business connection, it's really fast. And I said, oh yeah, I watched a YouTube video yesterday. And I said, oh, well, how long did that take you to download? He said, oh, it only took 6 hours to download a 10-minute video. And he thought that was a fast connection, because it took him only 6 hours to download a 10-minute video. So there are many, many parts of the world where bandwidth is still a huge problem. You go to Africa, most of Africa is still dependent on satellite connections, which are ridiculously expensive. So when you're doing evangelistic work or missionary work, if you want a global reach, you really want to have a low bandwidth site as well as a high bandwidth site. You want to avoid the flash introductions. You want to avoid forcing people to watch videos, because many people just don't want that much of a bandwidth hog, especially if they're paying by the byte, which they still do in many countries. So you have to know what is your what bandwidth people have. The next big trend that's come through, and this is huge, is validation online comes before interaction offline. 85% of young people will check out a church's website before ever darkening the door of the church. So they would type in Baptist Churches La Mirada, if they were here, and they would look at the various Baptist churches in La Mirada, and they would check out the websites, and they might pick 1 or 2 Baptist churches based on the website. So the people check you out online before they will ever visit you offline. Similarly, if I was looking for a dentist in my area, I would type in dentist 90745 and I would look at their web pages and their qualifications. Then I'd probably pick just one dentist. Ring him up, see if he's got a thing, see if he takes my insurance, away I go. So what we're doing is we're being validated online before anyone even walks through the door. And so your internet reputation is now everything, because that's where you're being researched. That's where you're being checked out. One negative comment on Amazon can destroy your product. A negative comment on a forum about your church can result in your church being blackballed in the community. So you have to protect the internet reputation of your church or ministry, because that is where everything is happening. Soon everything will begin online, even offline ministry. Let me give an example of this, an extreme example. You can go and you can get saved online. You can go to an evangelistic website and you can get saved. You can then get discipled online by Skype. After you've been discipled for a while, you can go and do your online theological degree. You can then register as get your ordination online for $5 and set yourself up as a minister and get yourself 501c3 for an online ministry. I've got 501c3 for an online ministry. After you're now ordained and saved, you've got your theological degree, you're now ordained, you've now got your 501c3 ministry, you can install PayPal and you can start receiving donations. And you can send some of that money overseas to Africa to support an orphanage. You can then start your own online Bible school, and under the religious exemption you can issue diplomas and give people PhDs or whatever you want. You can do all of that. You can even meet your spouse online through Christian Mingle or whatever, and you don't have to leave home. You never have to go to the local church. At this, you could go through your entire Christian life into the ministry without ever darkening the doorway of you can get your sermons online, you can go to YouTube, download everyone's sermons, you can go to church online. You can't get baptized or do communion very well online, but you can baptize yourself in the bathtub at home. That's called swe baptism, self-baptism. You can theoretically exist without the local church. So things beginning on, let's say someone wants to come to Biola here, what are they going to do? Before they even darken the doorway of Biola, they're going to go to biola.edu and they're going to check out the course offerings. And so Biola's ministry begins with their website, because that's where the student first encounters them. Before they come into the classroom at Biola, they've visited the website. So the website is the start of Biola's ministry. Before people go to an evangelistic crusade, like a Harvest Crusade, they go to the Harvest Crusade website to find out the details of how to get to the stadium. So the start of the Harvest Crusade of ministry is the website. If someone is going to your local church, as I mentioned earlier, before they go up to your local church, before they talk to you, before they hear a sermon, they go to the website. So the start of your church's ministry to anybody is at the website. So all ministry will begin online, except for some accidental encounters along the way at coffee shops and things like that. But the bulk of ministry will start online before you get to minister to them in any other way. And that's whether you're a seminary, that's whether you're a church, that's whatever you are, whether you're an evangelistic ministry, your first contact with anybody, your first point of ministry is going to be via a digital device. Even more so, now we have Twitter. If I get an invitation, this is a secular thing, I follow classical music. I have a niece who's a talented classical musician. And so my niece will send me a text message saying, I'm performing at Disney Hall next Saturday, can you make it? So Disney Hall has reached out to me. My first contact with Disney Hall is via the text message from my niece. And kids these days, to invite to youth group, how do you get invited to youth group these days? Via Facebook. Our youth group bowling event has now changed. We're not going to this bowling alley, we're going to that bowling alley, and they all know by the end of the day because it's posted on Facebook. So the start of the youth ministry is the Facebook page. And so all ministry, the initial place of ministry is digital. Before you ever get to touch someone flesh to flesh, you touch them digitally. And that is partly because of the massive distrust in today's culture. How do I know that I trust you? How do I know that it's safe to shake hands with you and you don't have leprosy or something, right? I check you out online. I want to see whether I check your profile and see whether you're an ex-murderer or not. I want to know about you digitally before I will ever sit down and have a cup of coffee with you. Are you going to be a big waste of time? And so the first touch of ministry is now a digital touch. And we have to wrap our mind around that fact. So social networks are connected to this first touch in such a way that they're integrated with everything online and offline to create a vast pool of opinion and mood. So how you appear on Twitter, how you appear on Facebook, how you get into things like Yelp if you're a restaurant, the atmosphere you give off in the social networks creates a mood that surrounds you. Now, there are people like marketers like Seth Godin who have absolutely mastered the art of creating an exciting mood around themselves. He has a great blog, and you read it and you feel, oh, wow, this guy's a genius, he's really helpful, I like this guy, I connect with him. He is someone that has managed that very intuitively well. Fast Company magazine is another one. There's other things like that have created positive mood. There are others that have been disastrous for the kingdom of God. I think particularly of that chap at the Baptist church who turns up with all the funerals. What's that Baptist church? Westboro Baptist. You all know it, right? When I'm talking to teenagers, they say, I don't want to be a Christian because all Christians hate gays and they're all angry and stupid. I said, well, why do you believe that? Oh, there's Westboro Baptist Church. I said that only 30 people out of the world's 2 billion Christians, and you're labeling 30 people mainly from the one family as representing entire Christianity. Well, I don't care. That's what the media tells me. And people have written off thousands and thousands of teenagers have written off Christianity because of Westboro Baptist Church. Because they have created such a negative mood around the brand of Christianity that it is now impenetrable. You know, 91% of people under 25, when they say, what's the first word you associate with Christianity? It is anti-homosexual. That's the first word they think of when they think of Christian. is anti-homosexual. That has been mainly done by a handful of churches. And so what has happened is the opinion, the mood that spread through the social networks has generated that opinion of Christianity contrary to the facts. And that mood is a huge marketing barrier to the gospel today. Now, this mood is something that you need to control around your church website or your church presence. When people come to your church website, they should feel that it's positive and it's accepting and it's great. Now, if they're on the front page of your website, you say, we are an anti-charismatic, fundamentalist, Bible-believing church, and we only like, and everyone on the front page looks the same, they're dressed in white shirts with big black Bibles, everyone's going to run a mile. But if the front page of your website says, we're a family church, we have a great Sunday school, we would love to come to you, join us, because one of the main things that people look for when they go to a church is there anything for the kids? Right, so the Sunday school should be there, your zip code should be there, friendly faces from multiple backgrounds. If your church obviously has multiple backgrounds, but it should have a sense of acceptance and fun and people enjoying themselves, and that creates the mood. The mood of the page is very important. And then you should have the ability to have people who are social network addicts in your church posting about your church to Facebook, etc., and creating a positive vibe in your community. The other thing is that now information is online and relationships are offline. When I first went to church 30-something years ago, when you had a theological question, you went to your pastor. And he said, Pastor Bob, can you tell me what's this Calvinism and what's this Arminianism? I don't understand it. I get these arguments about it. Can you tell me the difference between Calvinism and Arminian? What was it anyway? And you go to Pastor Bob and he enlightens you about Calvinism and Arminianism. And I would end up in my pastor's study. I was very curious, and I would end up in my pastor's study every couple of weeks with some dumb question, and he put up with me. Now, if I want to know the difference between Calvinism and Arminianism, I go to Google. And I ask, what's the difference between Calvinism and Arminianism? I don't go to Pastor Bob anymore. You know how many years it's been since I had a theological question from a church member and I'm still actively pastor? It's been years. I don't know how many. Because now the church members go to Google instead of me. They will come to me with questions about their marriage. They will come to me with questions about their kids. They will come to me for supportive prayer and healing. But I haven't had a theological question in a long time, because the content has now moved online. And people just Google it. So what they want from me as a pastor now is not information, because information is now a commodity and they can get it for free anytime they want. They no longer want John's brain. They want John's heart. They want to relate to me and they want me to pray for them and support them through their divorce, their crisis, or whatever. And so I do of course I'm a teaching pastor, but I do a fair amount of teaching, but the bulk of what people want from me is kindness. So the relationship is the offline bit. The information is the online bit. And so if someone comes to me and they say, I want to know about the Trinity, I'll say, well, the Trinity's this, and I'll have a cup of coffee with them and talk to them about the Trinity. Say it's a Jehovah's Witness is arguing with me about the Trinity. Once I talk to the Jehovah's Witness about the Trinity, I will build a relationship with that person online. Then I'll say, look, there's this article online about the Trinity. You can look it up here. I'm not going to spend 2 hours with you talking about it, but if you're interested, here it is. And so I then point them to the information that is online, and my job offline is to establish a relationship that will then mediate the gospel. So, and the other thing I got down at the bottom of that sheet is the discipleship is now moving into real-time interaction and chat. I discipleship people by Skype and by Facebook messaging. People will send me a message on Facebook, da-da-da, how's your question going? Or I get on Skype with them and I chat back and forth on Skype. And so I use that and Google Voice as means of bringing this. So my ministry has now moved so that a lot of my first contact with someone, and even my discipleship contact with someone, is digital. And yes, I meet with people face to face still, of course, but you can have an occasional face to face meeting and a lot of digital in between and still have pretty effective discipleship. Now, what's the immediate future when we're looking into the next 20 years? There's currently 2.3 billion internet users and about 6 billion mobile phone subscribers. Increasing 3G penetration, it's about 18%, averaging from 87% in Japan to 4% in the Philippines. By 2015, there'll probably be almost universal internet coverage via mobile devices. Everyone will be able to access the internet on their mobile device, even though it may be very slow. Africa is going to open up as the fibre optic cable is rolled out, and when that happens, French and Arabic sites will grow greatly, and we need to be in those languages if we're missionaries. About 1 billion plus internet new users that are come online as 3G takes out, and as connectivity efforts such as O3. O3b stands for Other 3 Billion. It's an effort by Google and a consortium of other companies to throw up, I think, 24 satellites around the globe so that all the dark spots in the world are covered with internet access. So that is underway at the moment. There's a digital radio mondial chip which will go into mobile phones. China's pushing this and others, and that will enable each cell phone to receive FM and AM and possibly shortwave. So what will happen then is the big Christian shortwave transmitters such as FEBC, HCJB and others will suddenly become very powerful sources of the gospel to every mobile phone in the world. So every mobile phone in the world soon will be able to receive radio. And when that happens, Christian radio will take off yet again after being thought of as a dead medium. So even with all this happening, there's going to still be places where there's hardly any internet. Still be a big need for simple technologies for the last, the least and the lost, and those in very remote areas, for educational computer centres and internet cafes. There are some places in the world where the culture is very, very collective. They do not want to look at a computer on their own. They want to go into an internet cafe and have 12 other people around them watching computers, because they don't like the feel of individuality. It's alien, they don't like it, so they much prefer to congregate in an internet cafe. The next thing is that devices, as I said earlier, devices are going to dominate. There are now 5 billion internet connected devices, and they think there's going to be 22 billion by 2020. So the device internet, one day your refrigerator will tell your car, will tell your cell phone, etc. It will say, you will get a message on your cell phone that says, you have run out of milk. The nearest milk store is at such and such, and I've sent that to your car's GPS system. You may go get milk. All your things will be communicating seamlessly, and you will be awash in data and information. Everything will talk to everything else. And the internet will become mainly devices with a few people attached to it somewhere along the way. And so we are having a system now where interconnectivity and standards are going to be very important. Who wins the standards wars of the future is going to be very important. And also where information has to be able to travel from device to device fairly seamlessly, this is where Adobe PDF is winning the war. It can go from device to device, and you can read PDF on many different platforms. And so there are things like that everyone said, okay, we need to adopt this. We need to make our device compatible with this. So content needs to be able to go from device to device. That's what I said with the MP3 file that goes from your cell phone to your MP3 player to your computer, whatever. Everything will be distributed. Same content on many different devices. Format wars for the foreseeable future need to be able to convert content into many different formats. And I'll talk about that this afternoon when I talk about technology for mobile, how to convert things into very innumerable mobile formats out there so that your video can run on all the different phones, and how you can design websites for that. These data transfer speeds are going to massively increase with USB 3 and Lightpeak, so we're getting gigabyte per second data transfer rates. Now, all this happening here means that unlocked, free and out of copyright content, e.g. Matthew's Henry commentary, will be preferred in the majority world. That's the 2/3 world. Most people who are on a limited income don't go out and buy Logos Bible software. I've never had the income as a missionary to buy Logos Bible software. I like it. Someone else has got it. I use eSword and the Word. I use the free Bible programs, and I'm old enough to have bought the big sets of commentary, so I still have the big sets of commentary sitting around. But most people, when they want to look up a commentary, look up the commentary that's on eSword. So they're going back to Matthew Henry, they're going back to the older out-of-copyright commentaries, and no one's bothering to buy the New International Commentary on the New Testament because they think, Barnes Note's good enough for me. And so the content, free content, is now going to dominate the area globally. So if you're in ministry, think about what can you have that's free and unlocked, because that's what people all around the world will be using. They will use your free content over any paid content. And then we have the Mega Voice and other MP3 players in the developing world for that kind of thing. Here are some of the big numbers. See that 44.8% in red? They're Asian internet users. Asia is huge when it comes to the internet. And then you've got Europe at 22.1, North America at 12, etc. So you see that Asia is rising. Now, the next slide, I think, shows the degree penetration rate. The penetration rate is only 26%, but so there's a huge amount of growth still capable in Asia. When Asia gets up to 70% penetration, it's absolutely going to wipe out the map for internet use. So there's a lot of growth in the Asian area of the internet, where there's not that much growth possible in North America because we're already up to 78% growth, 78% penetration. Here's Facebook, and you can see this is just 1 year. In 1 year, Facebook's gone from 664 million users to 835. That's the 2012 quarter. It's going to cross the billion user mark sometime soon. And so Facebook has now become the place that knows everything about you. It knows your friends, it knows your taste in music, it knows what you watch, and some of these new apps are very, very intrusive in sharing information and finding things out about you. Mark Zuckerberg has very little regard for privacy, and he probably knows more about the world than the CIA does, because he has so much data on what you think, what you want, etc. Same with Amazon. I'm an avid Amazon Prime user, but that gives Amazon so much information about me that it's quite amazing. I pay, I think, $79 a year for Amazon Prime because I order a lot of textbooks and things. The free shipping is paid off within the first couple of months. So we buy everything. We even buy clothes on Amazon Prime. Anything I buy it on Amazon Prime just for free shipping, and because I hate shopping. So the next few slides, I have to give an acknowledgement here to Mary Mika, who's an internet guru. That's her link there. I pinched this from her wonderful presentation that came out recently. And so here are some stats. There's right about 8% growth. It's driven by the emerging markets such as Turkey and Iran and Nigeria. India and China are massive. You can see the growth rates, year-to-year growth rate here in India is 38% year-to-year growth. In China, it's 12%. Down here in Mexico, we're looking at a 19% year-to-year growth. these are the emerging markets are driving internet growth. So don't just think of the USA, do not just think of Generation X, Generation Y. They are a very small percentage of the internet market. Here's mobile phones. Smartphone subscriptions at the moment are about 953 million, but there's 6.1 billion mobile phone subscriptions globally. So, and this rate, the rate of smartphone adoption and 3G adoption is growing incredibly, and it's anticipated that within a few years, all phones will be smartphones. And so we don't know the timeline for that, but it's probably 3 to 5 years. Here's impressive. 29% of USA adults own a tablet or e-reader, up from 2% less than 3 years ago. So here we are in April 09, and here we are January 12th, and that's the takeoff of the Kindle, which I've said I'm already an addict, the iPad, and other such platforms around the place. So this is a rapidly taking off technology that we have to scale for. Mobile traffic is now growing to 10% of internet traffic. In some countries such as China, it's over 50% of internet traffic. So a lot of people are 25% of internet users, even in the USA, are mobile only. So if you don't have a church website that is mobile friendly, that can work in a mobile browser, and for that you need to have a thing called responsive CSS. I'm not going to get into the technologies, but if your church website won't work in a mobile browser, you're immediately throwing away 1/4 of your new prospects. So you have to think in those terms. Here's desktop versus mobile. This is the mobile internet in India. This is the desktop internet. The mobile internet has just surpassed the desktop internet in India. So, and that's since 2008. That's all just happened in the last 4 years. This is, when I was given the topic, the first, what's happening in the next 20 years, I sort of felt like ringing up and sort of chickening out, because even predicting what's happening 2 years out is who would have predicted that the mobile internet would overtake the fixed internet in a country like India in such a short time.
Since you said that we could be interactive and
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Sometimes I'll see stats like this, and I'm not questioning the stats.
Yeah.
But I'll see mobile going up and desktop going down, and I often wonder, but never have a chance to ask. Is that stat saying that there's actually fewer instances of desktop internet access? Or, for example, in my case, I used to be a stat of desktop internet.
Yeah.
Well, I still am a stat of desktop internet, but I'm now a stat of mobile internet. So and I still am online probably much longer on my desktop than I am on my phone or my iPad.
Oh, absolutely. There's a couple. Let me see if this next slide is going to help answer that question. Here, the number of landlines globally. This is the fixed copper or fibre optic landline that comes in. It peaked at 1.3 billion globally. After that, no one wants to add landlines. I've just cancelled 2 AT&T landlines that I had coming into my place, one for phone, one for fax, because AT&T would not maintain them. And they were out for 17 weeks in 2 years. And I said, I cannot run a ministry when my phone lines are out. I finally got Time Warner Cable instead. I had all these AT&T technicians coming out, and they all told me the same thing. We are no longer going to maintain landlines. We want to push everything to mobile.
I haven't had a landline at home for 6 years.
Yeah.
But I still have broadband internet.
Yeah.
Coming into my
Right. So that here, you're one of these people that have got rid of the landline, right? And here is the mobile subscribers coming up from the hand globally. This is not just in USA, right? So the people who are who get a telephone these days get one of these. A lot of people only have a cell phone when they're talking about a telephone. If you go to Indonesia, the only telephone people have is this. If you go to the Philippines, the only telephone, because you've got to wait for a year to get a landline in the Philippines. Who wants to wait for a year? So what's happened is no telco wants to sustain them. Everyone wants to push to mobile. And so what is happening is the old fixed internet's still the same size. And all the new people coming onto the internet are coming on some sort of mobile device. Or there are people like you and I who have both. And so there's the sort of intersecting Venn diagram kind of thing there. You know, mobile huge, fixed here, but there's some that intersect in the middle there. And so it's just a matter of this is being pushed because there's a lot more profit in downloading apps for a telco than there is in having a fixed landline. So the fact that mobile really isn't as good as a fixed landline, that you really don't get the same reliability, and in the result of a disaster, if we have an earthquake in LA and all the cell towers go down, we are really in a big mess, you know. So, but that's part of what's happening with the internet at the moment. Let's look at some things that are getting shaken up, some trends. Here is Encyclopedia Britannica. Here is 1990. That's when I bought my Encyclopedia Britannica. I was one of the, spent $3,000 in 1989 it was, to buy that year's edition of Encyclopedia Britannica, and I paid it off at $75 a month for a long time. And just after that, the Encarta thing came out, you know, the DVDs or whatever. And then Wikipedia, and then Encarta, and then the print editions have gone. The last print edition was just produced for Encyclopedia Britannica. It's been killed by Wikipedia and by the internet and by freely available information. No one cares that those articles are far more authoritative, because except a few scholars. And so that's what's happened to Encyclopedia Britannica. Here, this is the newspaper industry. Advertising spending. This is newspaper advertising, this is internet advertising. Internet advertising has just passed newspaper advertising. And newspapers major city dailies are now being crushed. But Warren Buffett just bought about 35 or more newspapers because he says the local newspaper, the little one that throws over the fence, will still survive. Highly localised news. Music has gone from these, the old platters, down to Spotify and other things where you just make up your library and go for it. And internet radio is now taking off via Spotify and 365. And they said that internet radio is going to surpass terrestrial radio by 2016. I think it's going to surpass it well ahead of that. I think internet radio will surpass terrestrial radio around about 2014 as people adopt these new platforms. Here's Glenn Beck. We know he was on CNN and then he was on Fox. Then he got kicked off Fox for making some comments about Obama and other things, and their advertisers fled. So now he started GBTV. And guess what? That's an internet play, and he's making a lot more money out of GBTV than he ever made on Fox. And so he has 300,000 subscribers, lower production costs, and he's making materially more money by being an online TV play than a major cable play. So we are seeing the internet is what the technical term is, it's disintermediating. It's absolutely taking the middle out of everything. It's taking the middle out of Encyclopedia Britannica, it's taking the middle out of newspapers, it's killing bookstores all over the place. What was the one that just shut down? Borders, I think. They just shut down. They've been killed by Amazon. And so guess what's happening to the local church? It's being disintermediated. Like I say, you can get born again, you can watch your sermons online, you can get your teaching online, and a lot of people who get most of their teaching online. They will watch video after video after video, but they don't want to turn up in church because they get hurt by the social interactions in church. And they're sensitive people and they don't like it, so they'll watch video after video. And so people drift from church to church because information is now a commodity. And if all you're offering at church is information, that's a commodity they can get on Wikipedia or the internet. They need more than information, they need relationship. If the relationships are bad, then they will head out of the church at 300 miles an hour. So the internet is changing the whole game. Here's cash registers have gone from this big old clunky thing to a touch screen and an elegant tablet. Recruiting and hiring has gone through this thing here to LinkedIn and relevancy and recruiters and endorsement. I will share a bit about this. I've been looking at doing my PhD. It's one of those things I go through every now and then. Got to do my PhD, got to do my PhD. I've never had the money, never had the time or patience to do my PhD. But my wife says, got to do your PhD. So yesterday I went online and looking for PhD programs, and I was looking at them actually. I either look at theology or counselling because I've got qualifications in both areas. So I was looking at counselling PhDs. 30 seconds after I looked at one college, I get a phone call. Hello, I'm Miss Bloggs from, I think it was Grand Canyon, and we noticed that you were online and you were interested in our courses. And then I click on Kaplan and I get an email from, hi, we noticed you're online. Bing, all right. And I'm thinking, this is spooky. And where has my privacy gone? I'm just trying to check out some colleges for counselling courses. And recruiting is now aggressive. Okay. Learning by listening to learning by doing. Education and learning is as much fun as video games. We'll call it full body learning. This is partner. And so learning is now interacting with devices, interacting with computers, interacting with things that you can touch. Very interestingly, we have a boarder who's a retail manager, a total extrovert, fashion manager of a kids store, and she is totally anti-technology. So I watch her to see what is this is the ultimate low-end user. And she got the best sales for her state, for the whole state of California. Her store did the best. So very effective retail. So she was given an iPad. She wouldn't even switch on a laptop. She would never switch on a desktop. She hated everything technological, and her fights with the phone company over her cell phone were legendary, because she could never understand things. But she got on that iPad, and soon she was doing email, and soon she was doing this. It was a technology she could interact with just by touching. Didn't require any technological knowledge. It was so intuitive that Tamika loved it and ran with it. And so we are finding that education is now what you can touch, the buttons you can press, the stuff that leaps out at you. My wife's a high school teacher. She's got a PhD in botany, but she teaches biology at a high school. And the amount of media that she has to pump out to her students is quite incredible. So the whole of learning is changing. This is a classroom. Well, this is actually not a bad classroom. The lecture room I went to at university was a steep hall like this, and you sat there with your yellow legal pad and you took notes from a lecturer like me who speaks too fast. And physics was dreadful. And so now we've got the interactive online learning. And there's been study after study that's proving that online learning is better for a lot of reasons. Firstly, the student can pace themselves through it. So when I was studying physics and the lecturer talked too fast, I couldn't stop. I couldn't press replay and get that lecturer to replay. I couldn't stop the flow of information to get the concept that I needed to about the chimney stack formula or whatever formula he was putting up on the board. or Bernoulli's fluid equation or whatever. That I just got lost. And so online learning, you can pace yourself, you interact, and you can do it at the time of day that suits you best. So someone like me learns best between 11 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning. I do not learn anything before about 10 or 11 in the day, so I'm just beginning to wake up. And so 8 o'clock lecture classes in physics were a hopeless waste of time. But online learning, I can learn at my own pace, in my own way, in my own time zone, and that is more effective for all the different things that are going on. Now we have government subsidies. This is the old way they used to get government subsidies in India. Now they get their government subsidies as via text messages on their cell phone. Now, like I said earlier, you can get saved online, disciple online, go to church online, get great sermons online, do your theological degree online, meet your Christian wife or husband, get ordained, get your 501c3, write a print-on-demand book and get it on Kindle and become famous, send money to orphans in Africa by PayPal, have an online Bible college and issue diplomas without ever going to a local church. So the internet is beginning to change the very way that we do and see everything. What are some of the big strategies that we have to adopt as believers if we're to be effective in this digital age in the next 20 years? Firstly, keep it simple. Very few people are actually, well, everyone has to use technology, not that many people like it. I've got my 17-year-old niece who's the musician, who's this musical genius, and she's immersed in technology from day one. She's part of the digital generation that grew up with computers. But Hannah does not like the digital world. She would much rather play classical music and hang out with her friends, and she will use digital devices if they're simple. Hannah does not want to learn to program. Hannah does not want to learn to write HTML code. Hannah and most of the rest of the world don't want a website that says you've got to go through 6 clicks to do this. It has to be done in 1, 2, or at the most 3 clicks. And it shouldn't involve entering anything that requires any level of complexity. Now, back in 1994-95, I started a thing called Eternity Online magazine, which at that time was the largest Bible teaching magazine on the internet. It caught the wave of the early internet. By 96-97, we had 1 million unique readers per month. And it had a daily devotional called Eternity Daily Bible Study. And it had a little box, and a sign-up box, and it said, if you would like to receive the Eternity Daily Bible Study, type your email address in the box and hit submit. I got about 400 people subscribed as YOUREMAILADDRESS. They literally typed the words, your email address, in the box. After I got all these people subscribed as your email address, I then went back and said, where your email address is, this at bob@example.com. And this is what you type. And I spent a whole paragraph explaining what to type in the box. Now you might think that's funny, but remember, we've got 1 billion newbies coming online. We have lots of elderly people coming online for the sole purpose of using Facebook and sending photographs of their grandchildren around the world. We have lots and lots and lots of non-technological people who are going to type YOUREMAIL address into the box. And we have to keep it simple, because if you humiliate somebody, make them feel dumb, they will never come back to you again. People hate being... so we have to have, with all these billions of new users, we have to have high usability, high clarity, and lots of support. That little live chat box, I love it when I go to a website and I can interact with someone and I can use the live chat box. Customer service is going to be a winning factor. Live chat I've just talked about. Some of the old is going to become new. Email search, straight text web pages. Do you know that if you go to the Alexa 500, the top 500 websites on the web, many of them are straight text. There's a website called Drudge Report. Who's used Drudge Report here? Anyone use that? Okay. Drudge Report. It gets over 1.5 billion hits per month, and it is the ugliest website on the internet. It is 3 columns of straight text with links. So it proves you can be a successful website with absolutely appalling design. Matt Drudge is just one of the world's best wire editors, and he knows what people are interested in. And he doesn't create any content, he just links to content on the ugliest website on the web, and he gets 1.5 billion users a month. So it's a straight text website. Chat rooms, internet messaging, easy to use download sites. Basically, there's 3 places that you need to connect to people. You have to connect either with their email inbox, their Facebook page, or Google. They might find you through the search engine, or they're going to find you through Facebook, or they will be able to get your email address and email you. They're the 3 places you have to be present in people's lives. In this world, we're going to find some things are very culturally dependent. Facebook penetration is only 5% in Asia. Asians are unwilling to use Facebook. Why? Because of the shame culture, and because they have to seem to be right and they want to be respectable, and it seems to be a very extroverted and non-humble thing to have a Facebook page. It's also something where people can post something derogatory about you and hurt your reputation, and their reputation is guarded. So in Asian culture, Facebook is very difficult. I found in online discipleship, online learning is almost impossible in Filipino culture, which was one of the nations I used to be a missionary, because Filipinos want to be in a classroom, look other people in the eye, and they want to know what the lecturer wants before they post it. And they're not going to say anything that would make them look stupid. So when you put a question out into an online forum, please comment on mobile phone usage today, etc., the Asians will sit there silently, where the Africans will say everything. But the Asians do not like it. So in Asia, it's 49% penetration of Facebook, Australia 40%, most others 28%, but Asia culture knocks Facebook on the head. Okay. The power of opinion. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this before. People validate a product, person, or doctrine online first. So even if it's your doctrine and you say you've got Calathumpianism, and your doctrine is Calathumpianism, they will Google Calathumpianism online. And then they will find someone says, Calathumpianism is a cult. Oh, well, I won't read the Calathumpian order. Even if Calathumpian isn't a cult, the fact that the person has posted that it's a cult will turn people off. And so it's got to the point now where the brand, I first went through a Baptist theological college and then went charismatic and Pentecostal, so I'm now at a Foursquare church. But I still like my Baptist roots, but the Baptist brand is now dead in the water. Even the Southern Baptists are telling their churches not to use Baptist in the church name, because the name Baptist has such negative connotations, partly because of Westboro Baptist and other church splits and things like that. So the brand has been killed, even though it's a very good denomination. So these days, people are validating a product, person, doctrine online first, and a lot of the validation is fairly risky. So you get a recommendation, you go to a website, and then you take purchase or action. So I went and I decided to buy a laser printer all-in-one recently because mine had died. And I decided I didn't want colour because I'm stingy. I just wanted a black and white laser multifunction thing, and I'd got fed up with my previous brand, and so I ended up with a Brother. Why did I go for the Brother? Because it had 4.5 stars on Amazon.com. So the recommendation and the reviews pointed me towards that particular thing that I wanted, and so I then, on the basis of that recommendation, went to my Amazon Prime and made the purchase and the action. Or similarly, a social network can point you to a content site. So someone posts on Facebook or Twitter, check out this link. It's got a great thing on church growth. They click on that link and they come through to your website. So this is all going on in the e-opinion. Under promise and over deliver. Meet expectations so you always get 4-star to 5-star ratings. If you promise on your website, this is the world's greatest course that will solve all your problems, and it's a glitchy, horrible course, and you get a 1-star rating, that will kill your future of being able to advertise that. Avoid failure, disappointment. Do not launch until ready. One disappointment can blog, tweet, or Facebook you into oblivion. So it's when I first started off on the internet in 1991, you could throw out anything there and it was better than nothing. You could start what they call quick and dirty and get it out and then iterate it and improve it and do that. These days, you nearly always have to launch a polished product. You also want to build a brand, a following, people who will blog, tweet, and Facebook message about you. You need to create passionate fans of your ministry and get them to post rave reviews, which means you've got to cultivate the social networking extroverts in your church or ministry and say, hey, why don't you tweet about us? I've got a friend who's a Twitter expert, and I got him to tweet on one of my courses, and we suddenly ended up with a lot of students. Okay, online before offline. I think I've covered that. Yep. This last comment. The internet is no longer a tool which is used to increase offline brick and mortar ministries. Instead, it is the ocean in which all ministry, both online and offline, must either sink or swim. So it's no longer a tool. It is, you are in a digital age. You sink or swim in the digital ocean. And unless you swim, you're gone. The days of the first church on Main Street with the little white sign outside are over. The little white sign is not going to bring anyone in unless you have a web page, unless it's the town drunk wandering past. But now everything, your first touch is a digital touch. Okay. The future of the internet also is depth. The internet presents deep, specialised information well and can supplement church by tackling sensitive, personal, controversial, or highly theological topics. I wrote an ebook many years ago, 1997, called What the Bible Says About Sex. And it went through 25 different topics, adultery, homosexuality, affairs of the heart, whatever, the basis of Christian love. And it was fairly straightforward. It's stuff I could never have preached from the pulpit. It was blunt and to the point, stuff that you can't say from the pulpit, otherwise all the little old ladies get upset. And those little old ladies have a lot of power in the church. So you have to be, there's a lot that you cannot say from the pulpit, but that you can say online. Also, most people don't want the deep theological stuff from the pulpit. Their eyes roll back. I remember one year, 1984, I decided to preach through the book of Daniel verse by verse, and I nearly lost the church as a result. People were just bored rigid. And so that wasn't a very good topic. And so when you've got those sort of highly theological, highly specialised topics, you can put it online and you'll have 100,000 people who are interested in the book of Daniel globally. But you might only have 5 people in your church who are really interested in the book of Daniel, and the other 150 really want something a little more relevant to their daily life. So the internet can provide solid content side of discipleship truth, while the church provides the affective and relational, the love and grace and support that people need. You can have online education for church members, say via Moodle. If you're someone like me, I have not become a member, even though I'm on the teaching team of the church. I'm not yet a member of the church. Why aren't I a member of the church that I'm on the teaching team of? Because the rotten membership class is always put on when I'm preaching. Or I'm travelling somewhere to a conference and the senior pastor runs the membership class, so I can't attend it because I'm in some other part of the world. So I'm not yet a member of the church in which I'm heavily involved. Because I can't get to the membership class. I was like, put the membership class online so I can do it. Because I'm never at church for 3 weeks in a row. I'm off somewhere. Leadership, stewardship training modules online, how to give, etc. Ask the Pastor online forums, using a good program called Simple Machines Forum. discipleship curriculum that people can move through at their own pace and easy order stages, specialised prayer, communities online, and a church FAQ, the 100 most asked questions. I'm sick of answering the question about Cain's wife. Go to the church FAQ, you can get it answered there. Downloads for devices. Think downloads, remember we're saying you need to own your information. Everyone wants a download. They want the ebook, they want the MP3 file, they want the video, they want to download something and own it. So you think downloads, think products, not donations. People will pay for a product. They'll pay for a CD or a DVD. They are less willing to donate. So if you produce a CD that only costs you $1 to produce and you say we want a $20 donation for it, they will give you the $20 donation, you'll get $19. But if you say we want a donation, they'll give you $5. So you'll make 14 extra bucks by having a product. So people want to get a product. Turn articles into ebooks that can be downloaded and which they can own. Turn blogs into MP3s and podcasts. Everything should be transferable and portable, so it can go from a USB stick to a computer, to a laptop, to a phone. It's great if you can get it to be viral, interesting and useful. Multi-platform, we've talked about. File sharing culture. There's a thing called something torrents of light or torrents. There's a Christian torrent site. And I put all my ebooks in the Christian torrent site because people love downloading torrents. And so people can do that. Follow up a contact with a link to a download. So you contact someone, you say, "Hi Fred, great that you're at church." They send them a text message. "By the way, the link to last week's sermon is here." Click. And you said hi, and you point them to a link, and the link goes back to the website. PRC, Kindle Mobi have a mobile format to ebook format, and we'll just zip through that. Okay. Internet radio, TV. Internet radio is huge. Hulu, YouTube, Live 365 is huge. Internet TV is getting bigger and bigger. Here are some things on how to start an internet radio station, how to submit a podcast, live stream, launch your own TV channel at livestream.com. Now, by the way, this presentation will be at cybermissions.org/articles/Biola. cybermissions.org/articles/Biola. I'll put it up here somewhere so you can get it. So this is cybermissions.org here, right? And this one's going to be /articles/Biola. I'll only have that link up for a week or so because this presentation contains too many slides from someone else, so I'm not going to leave it up there forever. Okay. Ebooks, covered a little bit of that earlier. Webinars are now standard. When you get an email saying attend our webinar, no one has to explain what a webinar is. So webinars are now just part of professional life. Yes, we're going to train you on our new church database system. Please attend the webinar. Being all you church leaders, and we all get online and we do the church database system on the webinar. Because if you're in Los Angeles, your leaders are scattered all over the place, getting them to all one place at one time on time is getting more and more difficult. They're much more user-friendly and affordable. freeconferencecall.com is good, and others. Desktop sharing of files and PowerPoints. Webinars have huge potential for personal evangelism, discipleship, apologetics, question and answer, leadership meetings, board meetings. Chatty discipleship, that's using Skype and various other things to disciple. I find Skype is one of my most useful counselling and discipleship tools. I even do exorcisms. Because I'm a crazy Pentecostal, right? I do exorcisms via Skype. So how's that? Email and SMS. I want to skip through this. Last mile technologies. Okay. Here's some questions we need to ask. Which platforms can you excel in? You can generally only excel in a few. What devices can you be on and which formats? What languages can you be in? What niches can you occupy? That's a big, important question. How can you reach the billions of new users who are coming online? How can we create simple, positive, unconfusing user experience and give world-class real-time support? What social networks should you be part of or not part of? I don't find LinkedIn to be terribly useful for me. but others are. How can we amaze those social networks? What are our downloads or products that we can create? Where are our discipleship conversations happening? Where is your first touch? It's often a digital touch. And where are your meaningful touches coming from in your ministry? Where are you seeing lives changed? It's very interesting. Years ago, I wrote an article on curses, on breaking curses. And that is one of the places where people download that article and they write to me and they say, I need a curse broken over my life. And I got lots of emails on that. And so people are often emailing me because that's a point of contact with their life, a unique point of contact. So it's a discipleship conversation that's happening. How can we multiply or leverage our very best content? Quality content travels a lot further than average content. If you've got something that's truly amazing and it goes around as a YouTube video or a graphic and gets passed around Facebook or gets the share, people start sharing it. If you're in the top 1%, if you hit that thing where people say, yeah, I've got to share that, you'll have 100,000 times the impact than having something in the average, because people just won't share it. But the quality stuff, they go, ding, share, and suddenly you're all over the internet. Who are you leaving out? Who are you excluding with your digital strategy that you can reasonably include? So if you want to include the aged people in your church, or you want to include young people, include a group, but your website's really aimed at people with families, how can you make that website inclusive to those people? Some big hairy guesses. This is where we're going out to the full 20 years. This is what I think the next 20 years is going to look at, and this is the last few slides. We're going to be transhuman. We'll be always connected, we'll be chipped, we'll be implanted, we'll be data streamed. There'll be a chip in my hand, my head, or somewhere, and my life will be passing through a digital stream. I will take my hand, I'll swipe it over the cash register. I'll not need a credit card anymore, and that will buy. I will have a unique digital ID. I will be an IP address wherever I go. And so I will be, in 20 years' time, people are going to be more and more genetically engineered, especially soldiers who will have extra or enhanced bodily senses. DARPA is already developing the ability for soldiers to see into the infrared and UV by using animal genes to alter the human eye. There'll be constant virtual reality. Even now, our young people are living in almost constant virtual reality. They're sending up to 80 texts a day as average. 80 texts a day is average. Some send thousands of texts a day. They're living in a world where the real world barely exists for them. There'll be what are neurotropic drugs. That's drugs that such as Ritalin, that actually people are taking Ritalin to pass exams because it gives them so much better concentration. So neurotropic mental acuity from pharmaceuticals. People will have enhanced mental ability. People will become a blend of man, machine, and data. And this will be, you will be constantly immersed in data, and you'll be interacting with that data. You'll be poking it, you'll be swiping it, and it will be collecting your information as you go along. You'll be always tracked by GPS, and there'll be transactions, and you will just go ding ding as you go out of the supermarket. You'll ding ding and order it, and Amazon will send it, whatever. And they will know every purchase, every thought that you have. Not every thought, but every purchase. There'll be massive data and personalised data. The internet now knows you better than you know yourself, and remembers your friends, your birthday, your taste in music and clothing and articles, knows what you browse and knows approximately what you know. So I have Facebook sending me like things for Beethoven because I'm a classical person. Facebook no longer sends me like things for rap music because it has worked out that I don't like rap music. Very intelligent of Facebook. And so there's a Spotify gathers my data, others gather my data, and they know what I like, what I don't like, and approximately what I know and don't know. They can look through my articles online. And soon about 200 product companies will literally know everything about everyone. It's a thing, I don't know if you follow Wikileaks. Wikileaks is good to occasionally browse. If you go there too much, you get paranoid. But Wikileaks a couple of months ago had a list of companies that actually monitor all global data. There's 200 companies that, like Glimmer Glass, goes to the fibre optic networks, takes everything off all the fibre optic cables around the world and stores it. Another one called Intrusion, who I know the owner of in Dallas. It looks at every single email in the world. Not supposed to, but it does. Now, if there was government, it wouldn't be allowed to do that, but it does that. And then if the government wants the information, they pay intrusion for it. So the spy agencies are now relying on massive data companies that have huge pipes inside AT&T, inside Verizon, and know everything. If you send a message in the Middle East, down on the bottom of the submarine cables, someone's splitting off the data of submarine cables, and they know every single message that goes through the Middle East. Nothing you send is private. And there are massive, massive firms that are doing this and are storing multi terabytes of data. Now, at the moment, we're protected because sorting through that data is such a nightmare. That if they want to know about John Edmiston, there's about 250 John Edmistons in the world, I suppose, or more. And I'm fairly an insignificant one, so they're going to probably just bypass me in the great swoop of things. And it's pretty hard to mine the data in what we call real time. Real-time intelligence is where you get the data in real time so that you can make a decision on it, so that you can say to the drone in the sky, fire the missile. Right? At the moment, it's too slow to do that. It can be weeks, months, or years later before the data surfaces. So finding real-time intelligence is still difficult. But as computers are speeding up and as data mining gets better, this will vanish. In 10 years' time, it will not be a problem. We'll be mining that data at incredible speeds as processors double in capacity about every 18 months. So by the time we get to 10 years out, we will have such capable networks, such high speeds of data transfer, that this is not going to be a problem. Governments will become consumers. The market, the business world, will become far more powerful than governments, which will become mere consumers of data, money, loans, innovation, and of commodities such as oil. The government will simply say to Chevron, yes, we need this much oil, we'll buy it off you. They will say to Glimmerglass, we need this many emails, we'll buy it off you. They will say to the innovators in Silicon Valley, we need you to develop a software for our radar system, we'll buy it off you. They're already doing that with Raytheon and things like this. So the government merely becomes a consumer of the private sector and becomes totally controlled and owned by the private sector. And the large private sector companies become increasingly ungovernable. Security itself will become increasingly digital and increasingly commercial. For instance, all the nuclear missile silos in Britain, which is one of the 5 nuclear powers that has intercontinental ballistic missiles, are controlled by a Muslim company. Private company. It's not controlled by the UK government. They've outsourced it to a Muslim company. And they control a reasonably decent percentage of the world's nuclear missiles. For instance, you've all heard of Blackwater. You might have probably heard of Executive Outcomes from South Africa. They are massive private security companies that go and do stuff that governments aren't allowed to do constitutionally. So if the CIA did it, the CIA agent would be fired. If Blackwater does it, Blackwater just loses a contract and finds another contract somewhere else. So that's what's happening. Global security becomes increasingly digital. They're reading your mail. Increasingly commercial, and companies such as Glimmerglass and Intrusion will have more intelligence capacity than governments, and national security will be almost entirely corporatized. So that's where we're going. This is for your paranoia tonight, so you can't sleep, right? As e-opinion increases in power, electability will be a function of the politician's digital image. We saw that in the 2008 election when President Obama was so much better digitally than John McCain. We see that with the rise of Sarah Palin in the media. Even though she's popped out of politics, her digital presence is huge. We saw that with Ron Paul. His digital presence is huge and has so the digital presence is now very, very much a part. It's not all of the game now, but in 20 years' time, It's going to be a huge chunk of the game. As a result, the power to validate a politician will belong in the power of a handful of digital reputation companies such as Twitter, Facebook, Google, and their successors. The companies that own the digital space and can make or break your reputation, can give you 4 stars or 1 stars, will be the ones that control the politicians who will dread. Just like Michelin Guide used to control restaurants. And a chef would commit suicide if their top 5-star restaurant went down to 4.5 stars. So the politicians will be totally controlled. Lastly, opting out may possibly be lethal. In other words, if you are an IP address, and if you have to buy your food, your gasoline, and get your information in your connectivity, and you cannot live without that connectivity because you're so used to a virtual world psychologically, and your IP address gets switched off, and your chip gets deactivated, and you can no longer buy your milk, you can no longer buy your groceries, you can no longer buy your gasoline, you can no longer connect with your friends through Facebook and Twitter, and your social universe and economic universe collapses. If you're older, you're dead. If you're younger, you find it very inconvenient. You have to go across and live in a commune somewhere to make ends meet. So this is my nightmare scenario. I don't believe in a pre-tribulation rapture. I believe in a post-tribulation rapture. So if you believe in a pre-trib rapture, you're probably lucky. So anyway, that's my contact details if you want to take them down. Any questions?
How do you see augmentation, cybernetic augmentation?
Yeah, that's a huge question. There's a whole bit of what they call the transhuman cybernetic augmentation thing coming out there. Now, my wife is a biologist, but she's into cloning. She did a lot of plant cloning and things like that. So we have discussed this, and it seems like human augmentation, while it is complex, is basically just an extension of what they've already done with plants. And so you can make a plant a certain color, or you can put insecticide into the plant by doing the gene. So we can mess with human genomes to a certain extent. But also, we've got recently a case where a woman did something by just using her thoughts. What was it? She used some device. Yeah, it was about a week or 2 ago. She just used her thoughts and she controlled a physical object. And so, I don't know, it was a keyboard or something like that. People are beginning to read your thoughts with greater precision. So that you can visualize dog, and then the image of dog will appear on a screen. That is going to increase in precision as people understand brain mapping more. And so within, I'd say, 10 years, we will have, we've already got people moving their hands in their arms through thinking about it. You know, move my hand left, and the hand moves left to people that are... What is happening is they're now looking at augmenting people for war-fighting purposes. So that they want someone who can go into battle and run at 50 miles an hour instead of 15 miles an hour. And that they can carry an 800-pound backpack instead of an 80-pound backpack. And so they're looking at the war-fighting capabilities, especially of special forces. And so down the track, I don't think it'll be in the next 20 years, but in the next 50, we will have cloned individuals, armies of cloned warfighting individuals of huge capacity, unless God intervenes first. And since God tends to mess up the conspiracies of men, God may well do that. But we take the technology where it's going, and we take human nature where it's going, and the love of power, the augmentation of people is already well underway. And there's a guy called Ray Kurzweil, and it's kurzweilai.net is his website, Kurzweilai for artificial intelligence.net. Now he is the guy that talks about the singularity and things like that. And he's way out there. He's an inventor, he's a famous inventor, but I think he invented the some things for the disabled. And what's that one that has two wheels and you stand on it? And, Segway. I think he invented the Segway, and things like that. Where he has this very optimistic vision of where technology is going, based mainly on Moore's law, which has really the processing speed doubling every 18 months, which has really held very good for quite some time. So if Moore's law continues, we're going to head into some pretty scary areas. Some governments, such as the USA, have banned the mixing of human and animal DNA. Other governments are actively experimenting with it. So people like the Russians, the Chinese and the North Koreans are actively experimenting in those areas. Fortunately for the North Koreans, it's really difficult to do, so they're messing it up. For the Russian and Chinese, of course, I don't know, but they've got some pretty good scientists over there. So we'll see what emerges. I don't want to be too spooky or scary about that, but I think we're moving into a future where we become a mixture of human body and device and data. Even just the cell phone, as it integrates even a cell phone on your watch, you're becoming more human body, device, data mixture. Where that goes, I am very reluctant to say because I just don't know. But we have to project our brain out there to see what's happening. Yeah.
I was just thinking about how evangelism and discipleship is being done more and more through digital means.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on caveats or, I mean, I think the benefits are very clear.
Yeah.
But should we be thinking about ways to supplement that digital interaction or digital ministry?
Digital ministry has some huge pitfalls, such as false intimacy and a lack of accountability. It's easy to fall in love online. It's easy to think you're intimate with someone after 6 emails when you're not. It's easy to develop very superficial relationships without the need for patience that comes from face-to-face relationships. And so there's a false intimacy in discipleship. Also, there's a complete lack of accountability. So people email me and then I say, X behavior is wrong, and that's the last you ever hear of them. They don't email you back. They've decided that you've confronted them and they don't want to be confronted, so they'll go and find another Bible teacher online who's going to listen to them. And so there's a very, very deep lack of accountability, even in today's church, which is a market-based church. If Pastor Billy Bob says that X behavior is wrong, they say, oh, I don't want that, I'm going to go over to that church. So there's no churches now confronting sex before marriage because they're going to lose half the young people. So the ability to define accountability in a community has been lost. And what we're ending up with is church as theatre. The pastor's here, there's the thing, you come in, the pastor does this, there's the videos, ding ding, the worship's great, then everyone gets up out of their seats and goes home. And I went to a mega church. I'd sit down each week for a while and I never got to know the name of the person next to me because it was a different person each week. And the rule was don't ask anything about anyone because we're all here to be anonymous. And that was the social rule. Church is theatre, put the money in the bucket as it goes past, pay for your performance, hear the great megachurch pastor, go home and say that was a great sermon, but there's nothing New Testament about that because the New Testament has, I think, 23 or 33 one another commands. Love one another, encourage one another, provoke one another to good deeds, etc., etc. That's not happening because there's no one another. We don't even know one another's names, let alone have the ability to love one another. So digital discipleship, while it has great information delivery capacity, discipleship's a lot more than just boring information into someone's skull and slapping the lid down. Right? Discipleship is a formation of character and relationship. And you can have a certain amount of community on Facebook, but you really need to then get one-to-one with people. So my ministry these days is digital plus one-on-one. I do a lot of spiritual formation one-on-one. They come into my lounge room, I sit down face-to-face for an hour, hour and a half, regularly with people, and I question them, and I might spend a year or two with a particular person helping them to transition to the next stage of where they're going as a leader or as a Christian. And so the one-on-one and the small group is becoming extremely important. And I find that people are thirsty, incredibly thirsty for one-on-one interaction. So they're thirsty for digital information and they're thirsty for one-on-one interaction, but they hate church because it's neither. And they don't like, because in every church you have some weirdos, you have people that think, like my 17-year-old niece, she's very attractive. She hates going to church because some clown will always hit up on her. Right? So you can't stop people coming to church that are weird, and they harass people, and so she just doesn't want to go to church. Fine Christian, doesn't want to go to church. She's tired of what happens in church. So she wants one-on-one interaction. She'll come and sit down and listen to me rant and rave about theology, and she loves that, but she doesn't want to go to church, or she'll get it digitally. And she'll get some digital thing, she watches some film. There's a film called Waking Life, which is a sort of secular film, but it's very sort of philosophical. She watches Waking Life, comes to me and says, Uncle John, what's this? Da, 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 da. And we'll have a great discussion. So there's an interaction between the digital world and myself. And so I think the digital plus one-on-one is very powerful. And we can keep that going. But churches, the current model of church is dying. We have to reinvent it. We have to go back to community. We need to have to go back to the one another things. The church is being disintermediated. It's being massacred. And it's becoming a little more than churches theatre. Now, in rural America, it's different because people live together, they're close together, they know one another, they've been in one another's businesses. But in Los Angeles, the conventional parish church is a dying breed. It's not working. So I love my church. I'm not knocking it. But I can see where it's going. I can see where the trend lines are taking it.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.